Welcome! Today, we're going to trace a kind of spiritual map. It's a journey deep into the heart of Vaishnava philosophy, one that takes us from the very first spark of faith all the way to the ultimate experience of pure, divine love for God. So, let's start with a really big question. You've probably heard the term Krishna conscious, right? But what does that actually mean at its core? This question is really our launching point as we explore the whole goal of this spiritual path. And to set the scene, the source material gives us this really powerful quote. It completely reframes the spiritual journey. See, the idea here is that it's not about finding something new. It's about returning home, rediscovering this joyful, loving relationship that we've simply forgotten we ever had.
So here's our roadmap for this journey. First, we'll look at the initial spark. Then, we hit a critical crossroads. From there, we'll explore the winding path that many people take before we map out the direct route. After that, we'll check out the 2 lanes of practice, and finally, we arrive at the destination, pure love.
All right, let's get right into it. The whole journey really starts with this beautiful, powerful metaphor. It's not about trying to build your faith from nothing, but about cultivating a tiny seed that gets planted in your heart.
So this seed, it's called the Bhakti Lata Bija. And the key thing to get here is that it's not something you can just whip up on your own. According to the source, it's a gift, a bit of transcendental knowledge you receive from a pure devotee. And once you get it, your job is basically to become a gardener, to water that seed constantly by hearing and chanting.
Okay, so the moment that seed is planted, you're immediately at this crucial fork in the road. The kind of faith you have right at that moment, whether it's pure or just looks like faith, is going to determine the entire path you take from here. So, let's look at the 2 options. On one side, you've got pure faith, or Shraddha. This is built on a real understanding of who you are spiritually. And notice the 2 key ingredients: exclusive dedication and complete dependence on Krishna. But on the other side, you have Shraddhabhasa, which is just a semblance of faith. It might look the same on the outside, but it's really rooted in material desires, and it's missing that total, all-in commitment.
Now this is where it gets really interesting. The source breaks down that impure faith into 2 types. Think of it like this. On the left, you have pratibimba, which is like a reflection in a mirror. It looks like the real thing, but it has no substance. It's totally separate and based on a philosophy that's actually hostile to devotion. It's a dead end. But on the right, you have chaya, which is like a shadow. It might be distorted, just a silhouette. But this is the key, it's connected to the real object. This is a huge difference because the source says this kind of faith can actually be purified and transformed.
And that shadowy type of faith, well, that's what leads us to what the source calls the winding path. This is where the journey starts for a lot of people, where their devotion is still all mixed up with their worldly goals and motivations.
And what's so brilliant about this is how it shows the path is open to, well, pretty much everyone. It doesn't matter why you start, whether you're coming to God because you're suffering, or you want money, or you're just curious, or you're seeking liberation. The philosophy says that the process of devotion itself is so powerful that it can transform any of these initial motives.
So how does that actually happen? It's a pretty amazing process. You might start off with a totally selfish motive, right? Like, I'll do these practices to get rich. But as you keep engaging in those devotional acts, something funny happens. You start to develop a real taste for the service itself. And that new, sweet taste eventually becomes so satisfying that your original desire for wealth just kind of fades into the background.
And this is so important. These different winding paths are not failures. They're just recognized as stages where our very human desires are still mixed in with our devotion, whether it's the desire for the results of our work, the desire for knowledge, or even the desire for mystic powers.
Okay, so we've explored the scenic, winding back roads. Now we're getting onto the main highway, the direct route. And to even get on this highway, you first have to know where you're going. So what exactly is pure devotion?
To really get what that means, we have to look at this foundational verse from a text called the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. This is considered the definition of what's called Uttama Bhakti, or first-class devotion. Let's unpack what it's saying. So the core of it, the engine of pure devotion, is all about action. It's not just a fuzzy feeling. It's an active, continuous cultivation of service. And that service has to meet 2 criteria. It has to be done with a favorable, loving intent, and its one and only purpose has to be the pleasure of Krishna, nothing else.
And then you have the conditions that define what pure devotion isn't. It's about what you strip away. It has to be totally empty of any other desire, no wanting stuff, no wanting liberation, just wanting to serve. And it has to be uncovered, meaning it can't be covered up by goals like getting rewards for your work or trying to achieve some kind of impersonal intellectual understanding of God.
All right, so you're on the highway. But even on the highway, there are two different lanes you can travel in. The source describes these as two different modes or styles of practicing pure devotion. In one lane, you have Vaidhi Bhakti, the regulative path. This is driven by a sense of duty and respect for the rules in the scriptures. The mood is reverence and awe. But in the other lane, you have Raganuga Bhakti, the spontaneous path. Here, the driving force isn't the rules, it's an intense, spontaneous, greedy longing to love Krishna in a particular way, inspired by his closest friends and family in the spiritual world.
And this quote right here, it just nails the whole point of that first regulative lane. It makes it crystal clear that all those rules, all those regulations, they have one job and one job only: to act as servants that help you constantly remember Krishna and never, ever forget him.
So, after all this travel, all this cultivation, where do we end up? What's the final destination? This is where that tiny seed of devotion finally blossoms into its most perfect, mature, and beautiful form.
The journey ends by moving through these three final stages. It starts with the practice, sadhana bhakti, which gets rid of all our material suffering. That practice then matures into bhava bhakti, which is a state of spiritual ecstasy so powerful that even the goal of liberation starts to look cheap. And finally, that ecstasy blossoms into prema bhakti, pure, unconditional love of God, the highest transcendental pleasure.
And just so we don't think this is all some impossible theoretical goal for some far-off future, the source gives us this really powerful quote. The idea here is that this is actually achievable, right here in this lifetime. The only catch? You have to be incredibly serious and sincere about it.
So, when you boil it all down, what we've really been looking at is a journey of purification. It's about taking that initial, maybe flawed spark of faith and transforming it into the real substance of pure love. And it's a journey that's fueled by your own sincere practice and guided by the help of those who have already made the journey themselves.
So there it is. The whole philosophy, the whole path is laid out. The source even says it's possible in this one lifetime. That leaves just one final question, and it's not for the philosophers. It's for you. It's for me. Do we truly, genuinely want it?